Kodai Senga is hurt, and Tim Anderson signed with the Marlins. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Friday, February 23rd. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and let's start off with the unfortunate news. Poor Mets fans, already starting. Kodai Senga has been diagnosed with a moderate posterior capsule strain in his right shoulder. He'll begin the season on the IL and will be shut down from throwing until symptoms subside and strength returns. Scott, this is a huge hit for fantasy. Senga was being drafted as a top 20 starting pitcher in fantasy. It's hard to know exactly when he will return. We're just guessing. He could miss a month, he could miss 2 months, maybe even more than that. How much did you lower Senga in your rankings?
So I lowered him to 39th in my roto rankings. I think he's a little lower in my head-to-head points rankings. Basically, that puts him between Joe Ryan and Christian Javier. So a group of pitchers that has high strikeout potential, high upside, you could say, but also some pretty serious concerns. And this is a pretty serious concern for Kodai Senga. Because it's a posterior strain rather than an anterior strain. This is according to Mets GM David Stearns. It's not as worrisome. It's not as bad as it could be. And in fact, he sounded pretty upbeat when he was giving his take on the Senga injury, and he still expects him to make a ton of starts for the Mets this year. There's no thought of surgery or anything like that. He just needs to get better. But how long will that take? Whether there is one doctor on Twitter, Dr. Jesse Morse, who likes to analyze these injuries on video. And he was saying that he would probably recommend Kodai Senga not throw a pitch again until June. And of course, then there's a buildup from that point. So from his perspective, he's talking about half a season potentially. I think that's probably the most cautious prognosis you'll find out there, but it's the most. It has me worried. It has me a little bit worried that I'm not even downgrading Senga enough. So as draft prep season heats up, as we get closer to the biggest draft weekend of the season, I might pull Senga down some more. We'll see what kind of reports come out between now and then. But I doubt anything's going to happen that would cause me to elevate him from the point where I dropped him to now.
So how will the Mets fill the massive hole in their rotation? They've already said they will not rush any of their pitching prospects. And it sounds like one of Tyler McGill, Jose Butto, or Joey Lucchesi will be in the rotation. Any interest in those names, Scott? Deeper leagues.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a deep enough league, anybody who's getting innings has interest, right? I would say the most interesting is Tyler McGill. He's shown potential in the past, and he apparently worked on a new splitter that Mets pitching coach Jeremy Hefner says could rival Kodai Senga's forkball. In fact, they're calling it the American Spork. So,
love it.
It's getting hyped. I mean, obviously, a lot of things get hyped in spring training, but I would say Tyler McGill, somebody to monitor.
Let's talk about Tim Anderson, who signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Marlins, who desperately needed a starting shortstop. There's no way around it. Tim Anderson was awful last year. He hit .245 with 1 homer, 13 steals, and a .582 OPS. Does appear as though he was playing through a knee injury that he suffered early on in the season. The ADP is free, 389.8. My guess is that'll move up some, but we're looking at a very late round sleeper here, Scott. Any interest in Tim Anderson?
Very low interest, I would say. It would have to be a pretty deep league to get far enough in my middle infield rankings. Even if you're talking about a roto lineup with the extra middle infield spot, it'd have to be pretty deep for me to get as far down as Tim Anderson, who, given his profile as somebody who relies on a very high BABIP, has horrible plate discipline, doesn't walk at all. You had to figure when the crash came, he would crash hard. And he is 30 now, so that it's reasonable to conclude that he's just done. However, because he did suffer a sprained knee early last season, and prior to that knee sprain, he was batting .298, had 5 of the stolen bases, the total number of 13 that he had all year. Maybe that knee just messed him up all year. That's a reasonable theory as well. We're talking about an 11-game sample where Tim Anderson performed well, so we're relying a lot on that. But if nothing else, signing with the Marlins, look, they were desperate for a shortstop. So we know Tim Anderson is actually going to play. He's going to get a chance to bounce back, which wasn't so certain given how late in the offseason we are. If you're looking for bounce back candidates at shortstop, I would still much rather prefer Carlos Correa or Trevor Story. But Tim Anderson is a very late, what the heck kind of pick, is still a viable one.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again on Saturday, tomorrow. Bye-bye.